136.
That's right. Good
That's the
afternoon,
highest I see.
Richland College.
We're already on.
Live in full effect. You're listening to KDUX Web Radio. Broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are our own, unless otherwise stated. Jeez, I've only done that 50 times. And do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Welcome back from spring break, everybody.
Hey, how's it going, man?
How was y'all's
Z?
spring break?
I slept 80% of the time.
That actually sounds
We went
fantastic.
to a ranch, and we actually don't know where we went.
I got kidnapped.
I
That's
think
what
I
it sounds
did.
like.
We went 6 hours in some direction. I don't know if it was north and south. I don't even know if it was in
She was
Texas.
blindfolded, so she couldn't really tell.
And there
Woke
were
up,
mountains.
didn't
They
know
just
where
have
it
to
was.
pull the hijab forward and then.
Actually, I wasn't wearing my hijab, but yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
well, bad.
Risque.
Yeah, she really just did her
Like,
thing.
if there's in the middle of nowhere, literally, we did not see another human being except for our own family until we got out of that ranch.
Okay.
Okay, but that's true if you just drive 50 miles in any direction away from any city in Texas.
True.
Especially if you go to Spicewood, Texas, which is where I went. A lovely yoga retreat center called Living Waters.
Did you join a cult?
I
I
imagine-
started a
I
cult.
would imagine so.
I
I'm starting a
imagine
cult here.
Manzi, isn't very good at yoga for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Is that right?
All those
Imagine
cults
it's
have been dead
his
ends, though.
girlfriend's idea.
Cults to sack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cults to sack.
Cults to say.
Well, you know what? People said that about my skateboarding ability until I busted that kickflip, double ollie, nollie, push, pop, shove it.
I can imagine you doing skateboard, but not yoga.
Yeah, the skateboard's more believable.
not to my body. Okay, guys. So we're back here. We had a nice little break. I recorded. Once again, we had to go rogue last Friday, and as opposed to Tuesday due to KDUX obligations, and so we were able to wrangle together a last-minute podcast, video radio show here right before the commencement of spring break. So we were probably the last people on this campus. Even our engineer, producer Jack, left a little early. Maybe he wasn't supposed to, and I wasn't supposed to say that. Anyways, here we are, folks, and we're back. Can we take 7? Today's topic is language. Specifically, is language essential to thought? Is that how we had it, or is thought
Yeah, that's
essential?
exactly how we had it. Is language essential for thought?
Yes, and I got a little fired up in there.
Manzi actually slapped a girl today.
Yeah, I did.
He slapped a girl in the face
Yeah.
for disagreeing with him.
Yeah, and there's more where that came from, Haya.
Verbally.
At one point, I turned to look at my friend and colleague here, Kalen, and he was looking at me like, I've never seen this kid debate before. This is atrocious. This kid cannot maintain his composure. So, and he's right on all accounts. Yeah, I mean,
And I communicated all that to you non-verbally, didn't I?
yeah, right. Oh, yeah. We imaged it. I mean, so a couple of things we could do here. We could go around the room and share our favorite experience from spring break. Or we can get right to the topic at hand, which is language. We could attempt to do something of a brief requack. I forgot the duck bill. Or we can just continue right where we left off, which is where everybody was kind of coming around to my points.
No,
Well,
actually, that is
we only
like
have like
2 or
30
3
minutes.
minutes.
So
That's true. We don't have a lot of time.
Let's
It's going to be a
talk
short
about it,
episode,
Nancy.
people.
We'll hear it. We'll
I
hear
mean,
it
we
now,
have like,
but-
what, 20 minutes left?
22.
Okay.
Wait,
No,
No,
30.
It doesn't matter. We're wasting time
Not
thinking
yet.
about it, honestly.
27.
28.
Let's do introductions. We can start in the far left corner.
Introductions, yes.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That was awesome. Hey, it's your local groupie.
What's up, Vermin?
My man. My name is Gubalak Galabigu, and you need
You need to remember that exactly.
yeah, and I don't take lightly any mispronunciations of my name. Thank you.
Oh, God, could you repeat?
Nah, you gotta just rewind the clip. Thank you.
I was going to say that too, so I guess my name is Brayden.
My name is Copernicus.
Wow. You really put the urn in Copernicus
What is that from? Copernicus?
because all your ideas die. Urn.
Oh, my
Anyways.
gosh, Nancy, please try harder.
That was a grave statement.
What is
Of course it
Copernicus
was.
From?
The Copernicus is a person. He's a philosopher.
Yeah,
She's here to
the
turn this
Copernican
show
Revolution.
upside down.
The Copernican Revolution was something very major. Essentially, we realized that the Earth travels around the sun, and not the other way
Oh.
around.
Hence,
The
I'm
Earth
the
is
center
flat.
of the universe.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, my name is Raquentin. I'm the lead character in the story Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. Professor Manzi here, faculty sponsor. Who do I got to my right?
My name's Kalen Scoggins. I'm an adjunct faculty here in the government department at Richland, and the somewhat comrade in arms with Manzi in this particular debate.
Indeed.
Only somewhat, though.
I got backup. I got reinforcements.
Sort of.
You
I was-
condone him slapping
I
a
was-
girl in the meeting today?
Only verbally.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Wait, I have to know, who do you want to slap?
Well, if you have to ask, maybe you're the one. No, I don't want to slap anybody. Of course not. I want to embrace people. I'm all about the love, all about the vibe, all about hugs and staying alive.
He wants to slap himself.
Okay, guys, let's get into it. So raise your hand if you think there's a distinction between thought and language. I'm sorry, this is also audio only.
Okay,
Okay,
Say-
I
say
raised my
something.
hand.
Is it really audio only?
Well,
It-
you can download the podcast
Raise
it's
my
not
hand.
on YouTube, but it
Raise
is on
my
the.
hand.
on the website. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
See, this is my problem, though, because I want to draw distinctions among different kinds of distinctions.
Let the record show everyone drew their hand.
That distinks.
Everyone put their hand up except for Mancy.
No, Kalen didn't either.
Because it depends on what kind of distinction you mean. I'm being serious.
Okay, the question was, raise your hand if you think there's a distinction between language and thought.
Any distinction?
Yes or no?
And I guess that you're implying that there is not, or that there is.
There's a distinction,
between
but
language and
is it
thought.
essential? I don't think so.
I don't think it's
Ah.
essential either.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what is the distinction?
You tell me. You.
I want to hear. I want to hear your side.
Uh-huh.
I don't think there is a distinction.
Well, he doesn't think. He thinks they're the
It's
same
from this.
thing.
Oh no, not
I think
at all.
they're two sides of the same coin.
Okay,
you can't
what
have
is your
they're
definition of language?
indelibly intertwined with linguistic articulation.
Okay, but
oh, wait.
okay,
I
but
think
I
it's a
want to
thought.
really press that analogy though. Two sides of the same coin are distinct but not separable.
Yeah, I would call them indelibly intertwined.
That's
which is this-
different than saying
But
that
they're
they're not distinct.
Okay, I'll refine it. Okay, I see. I don't think it is though. But here's ultimately what I'm
How
getting
can you
at.
speak of two sides of the same coin if they're not distinct? Otherwise, it'd only be one side.
The same, because two sides of the same coin, which is another way of saying I love and I also desire. It's like I have desires that are rooted in love. I have a love that's rooted in desire. It's two sides of the same coin.
No, really.
Yeah.
This is where Kalen's going to sound
You
equivocating.
could love someone
yeah.
and not desire them.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it to you this way.
Alright, who do
There's
you
no
love
thought
the most
without
about?
language, and there's no
My
language
ex.
without thought.
Say that again. There's
no-
No, there's thought without language.
There's no. So you say there's no thought without language, and there's no language without thought.
There is no
If I were to
language
propose
without
that, how
thought,
would you
but there is
respond?
thought without
There's
language.
no thought without language, but there's no.
How is there thought without language?
Music.
How is that a thought?
No.
Like you
Well-
can translate thoughts like via jazz, no language at all, unless you're talking about musical expression as a language within itself. So
Well,
There's that.
I mean, music is. It sounds to me like music, no pun intended, is a lot like a language. There are notes, there are scales, there's structure, there's organization,
let's-
there's symbols. You have to be verbally articulate to write a song.
I'd say
Not when
first
I do
let's
it.
distinguish between what type of thoughts we're talking about, because feelings give birth to thoughts, right? So if a baby, like the baby example is the best example.
Are you gonna
'cause-
cite me? I literally said that right before this meeting started.
Sorry, but it's like a baby will know what the feeling of hunger is, but it doesn't have a word for it. As it grows, if it will understand hunger is something that it must be defeated, right? That is a thought.
Defeatus.
Okay, I really want to get back to distinction
Oh
versus
my-
No, let me-
separability,
let me
though.
I like how you
Because
completely
because
stopped
immediately
me
after-
mid-joke.
Yep.
Immediately after we finished talking about asking whether thought and language are distinct, the next thing that Professor Manzi said was, can you have thought without language or language without thought? That's a question of separability, not distinction or distinctiveness. Again, I would press, or I would,
that's fair.
or I would assert that specifically rationality or the capacity for abstract thought and language are not separable, yet they are distinct.
But they're
If-
distinct in an abstract way, is my point. Is that you can talk about the linguistic side and you could talk about the rational side, but you literally, realistically can't have one without the other. It's artificial abstractions for the sake of perhaps greater specificity, but again, it's abstracting from reality.
No, I would press you can have a real distinction without entailing separability.
I don't think you can. Thoughts?
but no language.
Prayed in your
Okay,
thoughts.
question.
Yeah, but no language, exactly.
Quick question though, but what is your definition of language?
Oh boy.
Of language is
Communication. I would say.
communication.
Allow the
is
Rick
like,
Quack to
is
begin.
language just communication, or is language like a sense of word? Because language in some places can be like English, Spanish, German.
No, but
Those
language
are
would
language.
be a form of
Let him
communication.
finish at least.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Definition.
my thing is like, what is language? Just any form of communication
Yeah,
in general.
I would say so.
So if it's that point, yeah, I kind of am forced to side with Manzi because any form of communication can be
You
a
get to side with
toddler,
Manzi.
like crying, like that's a form of language, or a dog rubbing against you to show it's hungry, or running to the door because that's a language in itself.
But
Maybe
that is
in a loose
communication
and
of
an
the
illogical
thought, right?
sense.
It's the
Yeah.
communication of a thought, but it's not the thought itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you can think about something, but you do not have to have a language to think about it.
Okay, when you
Think about it.
But like I think Kai was saying something about, like, the level of thought that has to connect with language. Ugh, I'm butchering it, but basically he said that more of the primal thoughts do not require language. But as you grow to have complex thoughts, you must have language to give meaning, to ascribe meaning to those thoughts, to those placeholders. For example, love is one of those complex thoughts, right?
Mhm.
When as a child, you'll see your parents like they love each other. You'll see the motherly love. You'll understand there's something the difference between love and hate, but you won't have a word for it. As you grow and as you mature, the more complex your thoughts become, the more the need to have a word for it becomes. But that doesn't mean that the idea of love itself is encompassated by that word love.
So I think there might be something to that. Again, I think that I would press that the connection between language and rationality specifically, with rationality referring specifically to a kind of abstract thought or conceptual thought, so that concepts seem to necessarily require some type of word to express, or some type of other language to express in a
Word.
way that, say, feelings or sensations don't. You can convey a feeling or emotion without language, it seems, but you can't convey a concept
Yeah.
without language.
But-
So I'm not sure the complexity here is what's doing the work, so much as this categorical distinction between abstract or conceptual thought and others.
So how would you
Yeah.
convey a feeling?
By frowning.
Without
by
linguistically.
smiling.
How does somebody know what to
by
do?
slapping a girl in a philosophy club
If you,
meeting.
okay, stop. Okay, that's gonna come back. That didn't really happen. We have to make sure the audience is
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
knows
yeah. He
Nobody
told us
knows
before.
that.
He
What
told
makes
us.
it funny?
He told us before the meeting started. We can't mention that. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
true.
don't- we
I'm
try
a,
not
I'm a
to talk
faculty
about it,
witness.
but,
This
you know,
didn't
me
actually
too.
happen.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Talk about these things.
He slapped her too. Don't listen.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so listen,
He didn't actually slap a girl.
something like a smile or
Slap
something like
three.
a frown. I'm not sure that's 100% universal. If you go to another culture
Really?
and you smile and they don't know what a smile is, you're not
That's
conveying
no
an
way.
emotion.
That's no way at
No,
all.
it's distinct.
I
That
feel
is
like
the
that's
barrier
the same.
that's the
It's in our
language
nature.
barrier, right?
it's
Yeah.
in our nature.
It,
I think a smile means a smile, no matter where
it is
you
a
are. Really.
misinterpretation. No, no,
but
no, no.
but no, that's not good. No, that's a good point that she just brought up. Though.
It's like a miscommunication. Language is gonna stay language only if the person in front of you understands what you are trying to say.
Indeed.
Without that understanding,
context matters.
you will not be able to communicate what you're trying to say. To communicate the thought that you're trying to present them, like the smile. If they think a smile denotes anger, then they will think that you are angry.
Yeah,
because
like in
that
the
is
animal
what-
kingdom.
Does
Yeah.
that really
Yeah.
happen?
Baring
like
your
that between
teeth.
Baring your
people?
teeth.
Not
No,
many
no, no.
Or
people,
smile
it
can
does
represent deception in some areas.
Yeah.
Totally.
Or the type of smile.
Or sometimes it's just weird to hug people. Like in Japan, you're hugging someone. It has more intimate meaning than a generally friendly hug that you give people here.
But just because the conveying of emotion may take on a potentially infinite array of possible, symbols or gestures, doesn't mean that the conveyance of emotion apart from language is impossible.
See, I think it does because if there's somebody who doesn't know what a smile is and you smile at them, they have no idea what that's conveying until you can communicate to them what it is that you're symbolizing by that facial gesture, which is itself an expression of a emotional feeling.
Well, I
That's
don't
redundant.
think that these
So
emotional.
redundant.
I don't think that emotional expressions are a good example because I feel like the emotion and the expression of the emotion are usually attached to each other, like without even need for explanation. Like when someone smiles, you don't have to go through a thought process to know that they're happy. When someone's frowning and yelling at you, you don't have to go
Yeah.
through a thought process to know that they're
That's because you're
angry.
familiar with those symbols.
No, no,
But
but
you
No,
do
those
have to go
aren't-
through
even
the
as a
process to
child or
recognize
a
it
baby.
as
Now
we're
happiness, as
shouting
far
at
as
you.
That was
belonging,
great.
Those
belonging to the concept
are
happiness.
inborn. instinctual
get any of that from
anyway. But how could we have language if we didn't first have thoughts? How could you
Yeah,
make
that's what I was thinking.
how can you make a word without having any thoughts?
There was
How
a
can, how can you
exactly.
have a thought without any words?
there was a
No,
de-
but there was
like,
a
let's
thought,
say
and then
there's-
you give a meaning to it.
Yes, let's
Answer a
say
question with a question.
before when there's something new and we haven't named it, like let's say when they're still making new states, right? You'd have this area which today is Oregon, right? Then they wouldn't have the name Oregon for it, right?
Oregano.
But it's just there is this place, and they have this
Oregano.
idea that there's this place over here
Oregano.
that goes, where, this is this section of land. They have an idea of where it is and what it is, but they don't have a word for it, right?
And then they give a word
And then
for
they
it.
make up a word for this concept,
In
right?
this case, the state is a thought, and then the name of the state is the language.
but the name came second.
Yeah, I mean, naming a plot of land or a territory, I think is different
I do
from
too.
using.
No, but then
yeah.
if you take the emotion, the thought,
'Cause it's
of
arbitrary.
love, right? You still feel the feeling. You just don't have a word for it.
Snack tax is still in effect, FYI.
No, it
Something.
isn't. No, it isn't.
Who's eating?
Sorry, no, it isn't. This is
it
radio
in
show,
half.
not class. Anyways,
I'm kidding.
the
But-
thing is, you would still feel the emotion of love, even if you do not have the word applying to you, or even if you don't know the word.
Okay, let me ask you this then. You have an understanding of what love is, and then you read a poem or you watch a movie that really expresses to you. I almost said exblesses. Exblesses?
Go ahead, man. Come
Who
on.
expresses something or articulates something to you in a way that is really poignant, that it reaches you, and because you heard somebody else articulate it using words that you never thought to use and articulating it, you understand it better. You might say, now I know what love is.
Oh, but it
But
is
So it's
still.
changed.
Thing
It's
about a
changed.
song?
You
No.
still had an
I want you to
idea
show
of it
me for a minute.
before, right?
Yeah, but it is
Just 'cause it
still a
changed.
feeling. It is still a feeling. It doesn't mean that language is just a facilitation of giving more meaning to the word. That doesn't mean it does not exist.
Okay, I have to go meet with the students soon, so I wanted to say one more thing before I leave, if possible. And I'm going to be returning to my insistence you can have a real distinction without separability. I wanted to give an example before I left because Mandy was giving me some pushback on
He's going to
this.
let me twist in the wind. He's
Well,
gonna,
no, okay.
he's
I'm
gonna-
gonna, you know what? I'm going to bring it back to triangles too.
Okay, oh yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah. So the triangularity and trilaterality of that shape are distinct, meaning the capacity or the fact of having three angles or three equal angles and three equal sides. They are really distinct. They are not the same thing, but they are inseparable. You cannot have a trilateral figure that is not also triangular, or a triangular figure that is not also trilateral.
But what's the significance of that?
My point is, it's an example of that it is possible, at least in principle, to have two things that are really distinct yet not separable.
Oh, no,
that don't
I
entail
agree. No,
separability.
I agree. It's
That's my only point, and so it's
Yeah.
at least possible that that's the case when it comes to thought and language.
see, that's where I disagree.
Okay, well that's fine, but earlier you were denying the even possibility of having anything that is really distinct, but not separable.
Okay, no, I was referring specifically to language.
Do you
and
deny
Okay,
the
I'm
No,
happy
that's
then.
okay, good. Have a good meeting.
Take care,
Hey,
y'all.
Get your key too.
I had a thought with.
Have fun tonight at
While
the
I
show.
was talking to Kai about something, and I think I was inspired by the movie Arrival by Amy Adams about aliens, and she's a linguist, so she was trying to teach the aliens a sentence. I don't really remember what the sentence is, but I remember the idea behind it.
Phone home.
When you have when you have a sentence like "I am here," right? Now you would have to understand, if you were teaching an entirely new being, what I is, right? Like there
Yeah.
is a me, there's a consciousness that is you or I, and then there's am, the state of being, and then there's here, which is state of place, right? You would understand this without even language, because you would understand there's a person who is me that is different from you. There is my state of being, and there is here.
I completely agree with that.
Right. So you would understand this without but that is only for yourself. But for you to communicate the sentence "I am here," you would have to use language to communicate to another being. Granted that that other being understands the language, otherwise the thought does not go through. Hence, the thought cannot be communicated.
Okay, but have you ever heard the expression, if you can't articulate it, that you don't really, if you can't explain it, then you don't really understand it?
No. Okay, you
okay,
explain it to
Manzi,
me.
can you
Maybe-
explain
maybe what you're-
philosophy to someone who only speaks Japanese?
Maybe what you're not explaining is the language, which is the means of translating the means of communicating the knowledge. But you actually explain the idea. Maybe you just don't explain how to express the idea.
Yeah. So say someone else only speaks Japanese. How are you going to explain Sartre to them? You can't explain it.
Oh, I could learn Japanese. I mean, I can't,
I
but
think
I
I
imagine
remember,
somebody can learn Japanese.
I think I remember my math teacher talking about something like this. She was.
I can
she
barely
was,
explain Star in English. I'm
She
sorry.
was a Toastmaster speech
Oh yeah,
giver.
I've went to one of those.
And she was she said her topic of speech was the fact that necessity isn't the mother of invention, language is.
Yeah.
See, yeah, it is true. I agree with her.
All right,
But
case closed.
What makes
no,
you-
but you have to
That's not
understand.
the same as thought.
No, no,
joking.
exactly. No, the invention is a object or a thing or an idea, right?
A noun.
And yeah, it is something. But for you to bring that into existence, you must communicate it in some form of language.
Yeah, and here's the
Without
thing.
that, because invention has to
Okay.
have a physical being, even if it is just a abstract idea. Because even an abstract idea, it could be an invention, right? So for it to
She's
be
holding court.
sorry,
No,
I
keep
know,
going.
right?
You're doing great.
So if
Enjoy this moment before I smash you
invention
to
is
pieces.
physical. For it to be physical, it must be communicated. For it to be communicated, it must be a language. But it can stay as a thought without language. You could imagine something flying that is.
Man, gee, what are you on right now?
Sorry, I mean, you could imagine something flying
Man's got
without
roid
ever having
rage.
to think of the word airplane or metal bird.
Metal bird. I totally okay. Okay. Here's. Well, does somebody want to respond to her? Does somebody want to bolster her point even further, or maybe
Before Manzi
nuance
goes
it?
like,
Before
you
Manzi
are
tries to
wrong.
fight her, yes.
Manzi's gonna cut the camera and
Okay.
slap her again.
Yes.
called
It's gonna say technical difficulties for like 5 seconds,
Yeah.
and then she's gonna be crying.
She's gonna
Oh,
hear
come on!
scream.
I'll have you know,
All right, go on.
I'll have you know, I'm
Okay.
good at the art of bee slapping. Sorry.
Of
So
bees.
yeah, let's.
What?
Manzi, give your
Huh?
rebuttal.
I'm curious about
She
this
can't.
bee slapping.
She can't swear on the radio.
Oh wow.
Manzi can't. He lost his mic.
Someone's words.
It's the perfect excuse. Now I can't respond. I'm sorry. My mic's. Oh, I kind of like. Oh yeah. I'm like. I don't get off on a tangent here, folks. But
Okay,
hello out there.
Okay.
Something I wanted
Um,
to say. I said it in the club meeting. Was at some point there was a time where nobody had language. And I feel like the fact that language was created shows that there was a demand for language to express certain things that were inside of them that they felt the need to get out. Just the same way that people wanted to go to different continents, so they created airplanes so they would do it efficiently. People had these thoughts that they wanted to be expressed, so they created language to do that efficiently. But doesn't that imply that there's thought before there's language?
I don't think that there was ever a time where there were humans without language.
Can I throw this
Really?
out there?
Yes.
I took your email and I posted on my page earlier.
Oh,
And I
dude, that's
had
all-
some comments earlier, and
Sh-
one comment
share that on our Facebook
cracked
page.
me up. It really got to me was one of my friends commented. He says, "Imagine being a deaf caveman.
Ah.
How did he communicate?" And then like all I could think about was like maybe that's how we got the depiction of the simple-minded man beating on his chest, because that's how he
interesting.
communicated. So that could be his language. Instead of using words to articulate, he uses action. So is language essential to thought? No, but is language a product of thought? Maybe, but because of the evolution of thought, going off what Haya said earlier, which is why she just made the like.
What is she?
I was
ODO
just
my
like
face.
mind brain.
The Macaulay Culkin Home Alone face.
No.
Yes, exactly.
It's true. What Herman, Furman or Herman?
Yeah, that's my name.
But,
She's flustered.
Either way,
She's so impressed with that.
look, it was
Oh my God,
amazing.
he
That's
actually said
exactly.
something intelligent.
No, it's not. It's
I've been trying for the
exactly
whole
what I
semester to get
mean.
that response
It
out of
is a language is a product of thought. Without thoughts, they would not be language. Essentially.
Okay. Gosh, we gotta do like shout outs in like 2 minutes, and things are just heating up here. I mean, I'll just put it out there like this, guys. I think that idea. Okay, first of all, if I think you're a deaf caveman, you probably didn't have a long life expectancy. So, but beyond
That's true. That's
so
true.
you didn't think then?
think about it. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Go ahead, man. Come
He had
on.
a wonderful love life.
I'm still waiting for a
That's how he
rebuttal
came up
though.
with simple
Yes.
symbol.
Rebuttal.
I don't
Guys,
understand.
my rebuttal is simply this. I think we're conflating, again, feelings or impulses or sensations with thoughts.
But they
Okay,
are
but
thoughts.
just because you can't express something doesn't mean you can't think of it.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, I know that's what
You
you're trying
can't
to say.
express something,
But
you
you
can't
can.
think of it?
You can think it.
Exactly.
Just
You
because
can think. Okay, you can express
Because
things
thought is a
to
form of
us,
expression
right?
to yourself.
But you cannot
maybe.
express to say someone who only speaks Portuguese, right? You can't express what Hegel, I don't know, anything
Wow, we
Hegel
just come
said,
up with
right?
stereotypes.
Or any
Careful,
philosopher.
careful.
I'm not gonna. Okay, you can't express. Who's the simplest? You think?
Wait, what
I
are
don't
you
care.
talking about?
You couldn't express the simplest.
Where are you going with this?
I don't
You
know.
Okay.
Let him
Even though you
finish.
can understand
Sometimes even with language, you can't express
philosophy, you wouldn't be able to express the simplest philosophical concept to someone who had a different language. And it doesn't mean that you don't understand it just because you can't express it to them, right?
Manzi, do you think that thought is an expression to yourself? So without, is that like what you're saying? So if you can't express it, you can't think it, and even thinking is like I think you said Nietzsche said that thought is communicating with oneself.
Yeah,
Something like that?
Plato, Socrates. So, yeah, a lot of them agree with that. It's the idea that thoughts and language arise continually together in harmony, in complementarity. You will never find a really rational society with a stunted language. And you'll never find a society that has a beautifully in-depth, nuanced language that aren't rational.
That's true.
But that's just different levels of thought,
Yeah,
though.
that is true.
That's
That's
just
different levels
That's what
of
we were
thought. That's-
talking about, right?
Yeah, that's what I was
Prestigious
trying to say.
thought.
Like, you can't have some thoughts. Like, you can't just picture a million, right? You have to have a word to
Yeah,
express
exactly.
that. But you can picture two without the word two. You can
Yeah.
imagine that there are
you do.
two of something in your mind.
But that's just the level of thought. Like if it was extremely high level of thinking, you would need a language that would match it. Like in the movie Arrival, the aliens
Ah.
could see. I'm sorry. It's like the
Haven't seen
aliens
it.
could see the past, present, and future, and they had a language that would describe past, present, and future into a symbol entirely.
That's what words are.
That was what their language was, because that was the level of their thinking. Now, if you had a caveman whose most simplest mind thought was, okay, I have two pieces of meat, right?
thought.
He would understand there's two separate pieces without ever having to think about it through a language.
Think about it.
So
I think you're right. Keep going.
yes, I think it's the level of thinking that is
Yeah,
essential
exactly.
But things like feelings, which do not need essentially language. But I agree with you in the fact that it would improve. Giving the word to love, right? If I like
make
some,
it easier to understand it.
yeah, if I love
Yeah.
someone
And be
and
able to
I don't
understand
know
it more.
I don't know that it's love, right? If somebody comes up to me and tells me that it's love, I would appreciate it more because I'd understand, like, oh, because there are different connotations to love, and that would mean, oh, this applies to me now.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we're on the same page then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm glad you guys came around to my point.
What?
All right.
Tanada.
It's not
What?
essential.
Okay.
though.
Art-
It's not
so-
essential.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
essential.
it's not essential, but it facilitates the thought. That's what I think it is.
We'll get there, guys. We'll get there.
Okay.
All right, we have to do shout-outs. We got to go in like
Yeah.
3 minutes. Okay, so any shout-outs, anything you want to plug? No, you guys, okay, I'll say this. I'm really impressed with how everybody articulated their points through language. Very impressed with that. There was no performative action there. Yeah, so we'll start at the back. What do you got, my man?
Any
Shout
Plugs? Any shout-outs, any plugs?
You can catch me out in Denton.
Great.
In the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing some shows there. I have a little convenience show at a little corner store
Oh, nice.
tomorrow night, and I'll be hosting a profit show next Thursday at Game Changers for a film that my friend's producing. So yeah.
Awesome.
Where do
Follow
people
me.
find you online?
Yeah.
Find me online, Instagram, Firmly, FURMLEE, or you can just find me on Facebook. That's my name, Furman Lee. I'll add you. I'm a pretty friendly guy.
Awesome. Yeah, okay, cool. Add the Philosophy Club on Instagram, by the way. How's that for
I got you
sure?
guys.
At RLC
Instagram,
Philosophy.
Twitter, and Facebook. RLC Philosophy.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Shout out this piece of thread that I have in my hands. It's pretty handy.
It's as strong as y'all's
Minutes.
argument.
It's a little bit stronger.
Threadbare.
It's as strong as yours. Look at it. Ooh.
I'm slapping everybody.
Okay.
Starting with the woman.
I'd like to shout out to the movie Arrival. It is the ultimate philosophical movie.
What's it about?
Are you serious?
And
I feel
no,
like for
I've
this
never watched
topic,
it,
it's really
but I think it needs to
essential.
be our next movie screening.
It is.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is really good.
We should. Yeah, we got to talk about movie screenings. Okay. Anything else?
I don't know.
Braden or Haya? If
I
you
know.
have
I thought I
Shout
said
out
my
House of
name was
Representatives.
Copernicus, but no. Next week when I have a proper list of
I'm sorry,
all
Copernicus.
the
Shout out
all
House of
the events that,
Representatives.
huh?
House
Yeah.
of Representatives.
Yeah, shout out House of Representatives.
All right.
So, the SG is doing a a House of Representative meeting on this Friday, 12:30 to 1:30, room EO32. The idea is to have club representatives to attend this meeting, so when we have funding available, we can just dish it out to all these clubs that need them. But attendance is mandatory for that.
What kind of funds are we talking here? I'm serious.
Funds,
We should
I'm
do this
not
off the
really
radio show, though.
I'm not really sure
We have
about
a minute
monetary
or
amount.
less.
I'm not sure about the monetary amount, but I do know that it's for your club activities. If you're doing a show or you need it for an event, we're ready to give it to you as long as you have a solid reason and a good attendance sheet.
Okay.
That's good to know.
okay.
Also, light refreshments in the coming meeting.
Okay, and we're out of time officially. So
Well, hang on.
Mackenzie?
I got to do some shouts real quick here. I'm just pulling up the minutes from the last Philosophy Club meeting.
Do you
When
need
it-
someone to hold that mic for you?
When did you? This is way heavier than it looks. Or I'm just very. I'm as weak as I look in that game. Okay, so here's some shout outs, y'all. Okay, it's loading. I swear. Here we
That was
are.
a long pause. Manzi, you're on stage, please.
Long pause.
Show must go on. Make up some shout outs.
Okay, here we go. So, March 27th, we're shooting for another film series screening of a film that's yet to be selected.
Determined?
It's
We're lea-
Arrival.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
looking. We're leaning on. Have you guys ever heard of the movie Thank You for Smoking?
No.
I think it's an excellent movie. I was gonna suggest it for April, but maybe we'll do it for March. So so the March 27th film series, April 10th will be another film series as well. So those are the dates for March and April. The Philosophy Student Conference will take place April 17th. So get at me for that. We have on April 28th tentative fundraiser date. So maybe we'll be selling pizza and shirts and sodas, or maybe we'll switch it up. But April 18th, look for a fundraiser. April 25th, we have the Ethics Bowl, the Ethics Olympics.
Ooh.
May 1st, there is the art collaboration down in Brazos Gallery. And then April 24th, tentative date, going back a little bit here, will be a panel discussion. We'll be hosting. More about that when more gets revealed to me. All right. And that'll do it for shout-outs. Of course, we meet every Tuesday from 2 to 3 in EO32. It's Philosophy Club proper. Philosophy Club radio show then records from 3 to 4 p.m. live. You can find our recordings up on YouTube or at www.richlandstudentmedia.com. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are my own or they're wrong, unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. All right, you ready, guys?
Ponder a little. Don't say anything. That's the end of the video.
Think about
Ponder
it.
a little.
Only if you
Ponder a little.
only if you have language. Think about it.